What if I told you that inside your body right now, there is a silent repair system working every second to protect your life? And most people have no idea it even exists. Right now, as you are reading this, your cells are dividing, copying, and repairing DNA. And this process is happening billions of times every single day. It's invisible, but it is the foundation of your health, your energy, and even how you age. Have you ever wondered why two people of the same age can look and feel completely different? One feels energetic, clear, and strong, while the other feels tired, inflamed, and older than their years. What's really fascinating is that aging is not just about time. It is deeply connected to something happening inside your cells. DNA damage and repair imbalance. Your DNA is like the instruction manual for your entire body. It tells your cells how to function, when to grow, when to rest, and when to repair. But here is the important part. That instruction manual is constantly under attack. Every day, your DNA is exposed to stress from pollution in the air, chemicals in processed foods, poor sleep, chronic stress, and even normal metabolic activity inside your body. These factors create tiny injuries at the cellular level. Now, your body has an incredible defense system. It uses specialized repair enzymes that act like microscopic technicians, constantly scanning your DNA for mistakes and fixing them before they become a problem. But here is where things become concerning. As we age and as we are exposed to more environmental stress, this repair system becomes less efficient. It doesn't stop working, but it slows down. And when repair slows down, damage can begin to accumulate. Imagine what happens when small cracks in a foundation are not repaired over time. At first, nothing seems wrong, but gradually, those small cracks can lead to bigger structural weaknesses. The same principle applies inside your body. Accumulated DNA damage is one of the key factors that scientists associate with aging and chronic disease development. And while this sounds alarming, there is also something very hopeful about it, because your body is not passive in this process. It is actively trying to maintain balance every moment of your life. What's even more interesting is that your environment, especially what you eat and drink, can influence how well your body performs these repair functions. Let me show you what I mean. In scientific research, we are learning that certain natural compounds found in plants can send signals to your cells. These signals don't force change. Instead, they support your body's own built-in intelligence. They can influence inflammation levels, support antioxidant defenses, and even help maintain healthier cellular function. Now, imagine if something as simple as a daily beverage could gently support your body's natural repair pathways, helping your cells stay more resilient over time. This is where things become truly exciting, because one of the most studied examples of this effect comes from something many people already have in their kitchen: a simple cup of tea. But not all teas act the same way inside the body. Some contain unique plant compounds that interact with cellular pathways involved in protection and repair. And in the next section, we are going to explore exactly how these compounds work at the biological level and why scientists around the world are paying attention to them. Because once you understand this mechanism, you will never look at a simple cup of tea the same way again. Now, let's go deeper into something most people never think about. What is actually happening inside your cells when we talk about repairing DNA? Because this is where the science becomes truly fascinating. Every cell in your body carries DNA, and that DNA is constantly being challenged. It is exposed to oxygen byproducts from normal metabolism, environmental toxins, UV light, stress hormones, and inflammation signals. All of these create what scientists call oxidative stress. Now imagine oxidative stress like tiny sparks flying inside a machine. One spark is not a problem, but over time, if enough sparks land in the wrong places, they can start to damage the wiring of that machine. In your body, that wiring is your DNA. What's really fascinating is that your body already has an advanced defense system designed to handle this. There are enzymes called DNA repair proteins. You can think of them as microscopic maintenance workers. They constantly scan your DNA, looking for errors, breaks, or chemical changes that don't belong. When they find damage, they step in and fix it. Carefully, precisely, quietly. But here's the important part. This system is not infinite. It depends on energy, nutrients, and proper signaling from your internal environment. When the body is under chronic stress, poor nutrition, or inflammation, this repair system becomes less efficient. Let me show you what the research reveals. Scientists have identified that certain signaling pathways inside cells control whether repair systems are active or slowed down. One of the most important of these is related to inflammation control and cellular stress response. When inflammation is high, the body shifts into a survival mode. In that state, repair becomes less of a priority compared to immediate defense. Over time, this imbalance can allow DNA damage to accumulate. But here is where nature becomes incredibly interesting. Plants produce thousands of protective compounds to survive in their own environment against sunlight, insects, and stress. When we consume these compounds, they interact with our biology in subtle but powerful ways. One category of these compounds is called polyphenols. You find them in foods like berries, olive oil, dark chocolate, and especially tea. What's important to understand is that polyphenols are not like drugs. They don't override your system. Instead, they act more like gentle signals. They help your cells recognize balance again. They influence antioxidant pathways, which help reduce the excess oxidative stress that contributes to DNA damage. They also interact with cellular communication systems that regulate inflammation and repair. Imagine what happens when your cells receive a message that says, conditions are safe, repair can continue. That is the kind of environment your body is naturally designed to function in. Now, one of the most studied sources of these polyphenols is a simple plant infusion that humans have consumed for thousands of years, tea. But here's the key insight. Not all teas are the same. Some varieties contain significantly higher concentrations of specific compounds that scientists are actively studying for their effects on cellular health. One of the most interesting compounds is EGCG, found in green tea. Research suggests that it can interact with multiple biological pathways involved in oxidative stress reduction, inflammation control, and cellular resilience. Now, I want to be very careful here. We are not talking about a single substance curing anything. Instead, we are talking about supporting the body's natural ability to maintain balance, what scientists call homeostasis. Your body already knows how to repair itself. The real question is whether it has the right environment and signals to do that effectively. And in the next part, we are going to look at how a simple daily habit, something as basic as 1 cup of tea, can influence these pathways in a practical, real-world way. Because when science meets simplicity, that is where real lifestyle change begins. Now that we understand how DNA repair works at the cellular level, the next question becomes very practical. What can actually support this process in real life in a simple and sustainable way? Because science is only powerful when it can be translated into something you can do every day. Let me show you what the research reveals about one of the most interesting natural compounds studied in nutrition science and how it connects directly to a very simple daily habit. We are talking about green tea. Now, green tea may sound ordinary. Many people drink it casually without thinking much about it, but when you look at it through the lens of cellular biology, it becomes much more interesting. Green tea contains a group of compounds called catechins, and the most studied among them is EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. Now, don't get lost in the scientific name. What matters is what it does inside the body. What's really fascinating is that EGCG appears to interact with multiple biological systems at once. It doesn't act in a single isolated pathway. Instead, it influences a network of signals related to inflammation, oxidative stress, and cellular defense. Let me explain this in a simple way. Imagine your body has thousands of switches inside every cell. Some switches control repair. Some control inflammation. Some control how cells respond to stress. When these switches are balanced, your body functions smoothly. But when they are disrupted, often by chronic stress, poor diet, or environmental exposure, the system becomes less efficient. EGCG acts like a gentle coordinator. It doesn't force the system. Instead, it helps restore balance in how these switches communicate. In laboratory studies, Researchers have observed that green tea compounds can support antioxidant activity. This is important because oxidative stress is one of the major contributors to DNA damage over time. When oxidative stress is reduced, the environment inside the cell becomes more stable. And in a stable environment, DNA repair systems can function more effectively. Let me show you what this means in practical terms. Imagine a repair crew trying to fix a building during a storm. It would be difficult, slow, and inefficient. Now imagine the same crew working in calm weather. Everything becomes easier, more precise, and more effective. That is what cellular balance does inside your body. Now, there is another fascinating layer here. Some studies suggest that green tea compounds may also influence how abnormal or damaged cells behave, not by attacking them directly, but by influencing the signals that regulate growth, repair, and program cell removal, a process known as apoptosis. This is part of your body's natural quality control system. Every day, your body removes cells that are no longer functioning properly. This is a normal and essential process for maintaining health. Now, I want to be very clear. We are not talking about treatment or cure. We are talking about supporting the body's existing systems so they can function as they were designed to. And this is where green tea becomes so interesting from a lifestyle perspective because it is simple, it is accessible, and it has been consumed for centuries in many cultures with a long history of wellness traditions. Imagine what happens when a small daily habit, like drinking 1 cup of green tea, gently supports your body's internal environment over time. Not dramatically, not overnight, but consistently, day after day. What's important in nutrition science is not intensity, it is consistency. A small supportive signal, repeated daily, can have a meaningful cumulative effect on biological systems. Now, in the next part, we are going to talk about how to actually use this in a realistic daily routine, how to prepare it, when to drink it, and what habits enhance its natural benefits. Because understanding science is one thing, but applying it in a simple, sustainable way is where real change begins. Now, let's bring this out of theory and into something very practical, because understanding the science is important, but what truly matters is how you can use it in your daily life in a simple, realistic way. What's really fascinating is that when we look at populations around the world who consistently consume green tea, we don't see them treating it like a medicine. Instead, it is part of a rhythm, a daily ritual that supports the body gently over time. So the question becomes, how do you actually use this in a way that supports DNA repair pathways, reduces oxidative stress, and helps your body maintain balance? Let me show you what the research and traditional patterns suggest. First, the simplest approach is consistency. 1 cup a day is often enough to begin influencing cellular pathways over time. Some studies suggest benefits with multiple cups, but the key is not excess, it is regular exposure. Imagine what happens when your cells receive repeated gentle signals every day that support antioxidant defenses and inflammation balance. It is not a sudden shift. It is more like gradually changing the internal environment so your body can function more efficiently. Now, preparation matters more than most people realize. Green tea is sensitive. If you use boiling water directly on the leaves, you can damage some of the delicate compounds, especially catechins like EGCG. Instead, using slightly cooled water, not boiling, but hot, helps preserve these bioactive compounds. Steeping time also matters. Around 2 to 3 minutes is often enough. Too short, and you miss beneficial compounds. Too long, and it can become bitter, which often discourages regular use. Let me show you a simple way to think about this. You are not just making a drink. You are gently extracting plant signals that communicate with your biology. Now, timing is another interesting factor. Some people prefer drinking green tea in the morning because it provides a calm, steady alertness without the spikes and crashes associated with high caffeine intake. Others prefer it in the afternoon as a replacement for sugary or processed beverages. What's important is avoiding extreme temperatures and excessive additives. Adding large amounts of sugar can counteract some of the metabolic benefits we are trying to support. If you want to enhance its natural properties, some traditions combine green tea with lemon. The vitamin C from lemon may help stabilize certain compounds and support absorption. But again, the foundation is simplicity, 1 cup, one habit, repeated daily. Now, let's talk about something very important that often gets overlooked: the environment in which you consume it. If you are constantly under stress, eating highly processed foods, or sleeping poorly, no single food or drink will override those patterns. But what green tea can do is support resilience. It can become part of a larger system of health supporting behaviors. Think of it like this: your body's like a complex orchestra. DNA repair is one instrument, inflammation control is another, immune surveillance is another. When everything is in harmony, the system performs beautifully. Green tea is not the conductor, but it can help tune certain instruments so they work more smoothly together. Now, there is also an important practical tip. Avoid drinking it immediately after heavy meals if you are sensitive to absorption issues, as some compounds in tea can slightly affect iron absorption in certain individuals. For most people, this is not a concern, but it is something to be aware of. The best approach is balance. Use it as a supportive habit, not an isolated intervention. And over time, what tends to happen is subtle but meaningful. People often notice more steady energy, a calmer digestive rhythm, a sense of internal balance that is hard to describe but easy to feel. This is not magic. This is biology responding to consistent, gentle input. Now, in the next part, we will explore what kinds of long-term changes researchers observe when these types of habits are maintained, including effects on inflammation, aging pathways, and cellular resilience. Because when small habits are repeated over months and years, they begin to shape the trajectory of health in a very real way. Now we come to the most exciting question people always ask: what actually happens in the body when you make a habit of supporting these cellular pathways consistently over time? Because it is one thing to talk about DNA repair in theory. It is another thing entirely to understand how that translates into real lived biological change. Let me show you what the research and biological models suggest in a simple way. When the body is consistently exposed to supportive plant compounds like those found in green tea, several systems begin to shift gradually, not dramatically overnight, but steadily over weeks and months. One of the first areas affected is inflammation. What's really fascinating is that chronic inflammation is often silent. You do not feel it directly, but inside the body, it can influence everything from energy levels to tissue repair to cellular communication. When inflammatory signals are high, your body prioritizes defense over repair. But when inflammation is reduced, resources can shift back toward maintenance and restoration. This is where compounds like EGCG become interesting, because they are associated with pathways that help regulate inflammatory balance. Now, imagine what happens when your internal environment becomes less inflamed over time. Your cells are no longer constantly in a stress response mode. Instead, they can allocate more energy toward repair processes, including DNA maintenance. And that brings us to another important system: oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is like rust forming inside a machine. It is a natural byproduct of metabolism, but when it becomes excessive, it can damage cellular structures, including DNA. When antioxidant defenses are supported, this rusting process slows down. And when that happens, the workload on DNA repair systems becomes more manageable. Let me show you what this means in practical terms. Imagine your body is a city. Every day, there is normal wear and tear, traffic, weather, activity. DNA repair systems are like maintenance crews, fixing roads and infrastructure. But if damage happens too quickly, the crews become overwhelmed. Now, when oxidative stress is reduced and inflammation is balanced, it is like reducing the number of emergencies happening in the city. The repair crews can finally keep up with their work. This is where long-term benefits begin to emerge. Some studies in nutrition science suggest that consistent intake of polyphenol-rich foods is associated with better markers of cellular health, improved metabolic balance, and healthier aging profiles. Now, I want to be very careful here. We are not talking about reversing disease or making promises about outcomes. We are talking about supporting biological systems that are already designed for resilience. Another important area is immune surveillance. Your immune system is constantly scanning for abnormal or damaged cells. This is one of the most important protective functions in your body. When your internal environment is balanced, immune communication tends to function more efficiently. That means your body is better at recognizing what belongs and what does not. This is not something you feel directly. It is something happening quietly, continuously in the background of your biology. Over time, people who adopt consistent plant-rich habits often report feeling more stable energy, better recovery after stress, and a greater sense of physiological balance. And from a scientific perspective, what is happening is a gradual shift in the internal environment from one dominated by stress signals to one that supports repair signals. Now, here is the most important insight of all. None of these effects come from a single cup of tea. They come from repetition. Your biology responds to patterns, not isolated events. One cup is a signal, but a daily habit becomes an environment, and your body adapts to that environment over time. So when people ask whether something as simple as green tea can make a difference, the real answer is this: it is not about one moment. It is about thousands of small moments adding up. Now, in the final part, we are going to bring everything together and talk about how to think about this as a long-term lifestyle approach and what truly matters most if your goal is to support healthy aging, cellular repair, and overall resilience. Now, we reach the most important part of this entire discussion because understanding biology is powerful, but knowing how to apply it safely and realistically is what truly makes a difference in your long-term health. Let's bring everything together. We talked about DNA repair, oxidative stress, inflammation, and how certain plant compounds, especially those found in green tea, may support the body's natural balance systems. But I want to make something very clear before we go any further. Your body is already equipped with extraordinary repair mechanisms. Every single day, it is working to maintain balance, remove damaged cells, and protect your genetic material. The goal is not to fix your body. The goal is to support what your body's already trying to do. Now, what's really fascinating is that most of the things that influence long-term health are not extreme interventions. They are small, repeated daily choices. Sleep, movement, stress levels, food quality, hydration, and yes, simple plant-based beverages like tea. But the mistake many people make is believing that one single food or drink is responsible for health or disease outcomes. That is not how biology works. Let me show you what matters more. Consistency creates environment. Environment shapes biology. If your daily environment is high in processed foods, low in sleep, and high in stress, your body shifts into a survival state. In that state, repair processes are less efficient because the system is focused on immediate demands. But when your environment is balanced, when you include whole foods, antioxidant-rich plants, and calming daily rituals, your body gradually shifts into a repair supportive state. That is where the real benefit comes from. Now, green tea is interesting not because it is magical, but because it is simple, accessible, and consistent with what we know about plant compounds that support cellular health. It is not a treatment. It is not a cure. It is a supportive habit that fits into a larger pattern of healthy living. And that distinction is very important. What's really powerful is understanding that your body is dynamic, it responds to signals, and every choice you make sends a signal. Some signals increase stress inside the body, others reduce it. Some support inflammation balance, others disrupt it. Some support repair systems, others slow them down. So the question becomes, what kind of signals are you giving your body most of the time? Now, I want to leave you with a hopeful perspective. Your body is not fragile. It is adaptive. It is resilient, and it is constantly trying to return to balance. Even if you have not been perfect with your health habits in the past, your biology responds quickly when conditions improve. Within days, inflammatory markers can shift. Within weeks, metabolic patterns can improve. And over longer periods, cellular environments can become more stable. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. A small positive habit, repeated daily, can gradually influence the internal environment in meaningful ways. But I also want to offer a word of caution. Do not rely on a single habit while ignoring the bigger picture. No tea, no food, no supplement can compensate for chronic poor sleep, unmanaged stress, or a consistently processed diet. True health comes from patterns, not shortcuts. So if there's one simple takeaway from everything we discussed, it is this: support your body. Don't override it. Work with your biology, not against it. And choose small, sustainable habits that you can actually maintain, because over time, it is those small habits that shape your energy, your resilience, and your long term health trajectory. And perhaps most importantly, remember this: your body is always listening to what you do every day, not just occasionally, but consistently. So if you give it the right environment, it will do what it is designed to do best: repair, protect, and restore balance. That is the real power of food as medicine.